Good morning, everybody. Doing a little mob grazing this morning. I wanted to show you some of the reasons that we mob graze, because everybody knows on our farm that we don't mob graze every single time. We always rotationally graze, fairly heavy, and usually heavier than most people rotationally graze, but we don't always mob them super dense. It depends. It always depends on what we've got going on. Usually this time of year the grass is growing fast enough that our main focus is getting them ahead of the grass before it heads out. So we don't do a lot of mob grazing during that time. But this is one of those scenarios I wanted to show you that we are going to do some mobbing in here, and we've done some mobbing behind us as well. So y'all forgive me for all the turning around. We've fairly intensely mobbed them all throughout today, and you know, sometimes when you really intensely mob them, then you know, you're kind of putting a little bit of extra pressure on them. That way they're not necessarily getting as much to eat through that day when you're doing it really intensely, but you know, you're going to put them right back in there. That's why I always like to have a good next field to go into. We're going to go into this and give them a lot of open space here in about 3 hours probably, somewhere in there, and then we're going to let them have that for the rest of the day, and then all night. So we'll probably be letting them in there probably about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then all through the rest of the evening to relax, get to where they've got some more food back in their belly and everything, and then get them, you know, because it's not like they are grazing, but they are trampling quite a bit more when you're doing them this intensely. Because you see how close these lines are. We're actually, so this is one of the scenarios that we want to do this in. Well, there's a really good reason. First off, this is my driveway, and I like to kind of, you know, I hate to mow all of this because I'm a grazer and I'm not a mower, and so that's, you know, I make my money grazing. I don't make it running that riding mower. So I mean, you see I keep a nice strip here mowed to make it look better and to make sure it's not right up on the road, but it's just really hard for me to mow this. So ultimately I do want to keep it grazed down. So I like to get them in here and graze it, knock it down pretty quick. That way they're not blocking the driveway for very long. That's one of my reasons, but that's not my only reason, because I don't always do this. My main reason is actually because the clover is very dense in here. It's very thick. We've got a couple different types of clover in here. We've actually, you can see here, we've got a little patch of red clover. We've got mostly red clover on our place, but we've got some Japanese clover in here. We've got several different types of clover, and it's very dense. Now, I'm not as concerned about the bloat because most of it's headed out to the point that it's not going to be as bad. It's not going to be as much of a concern with that, but you know, there's always that possibility. But if you look down in here, I mean, there's not a whole lot of grass. It's mostly just clover. Okay, so we're going to run them in here. We're going to mob this, knock it all down, because it's not going to be much longer. We're going to start to see our summer grasses. Our summer grasses seem to be coming in quicker this year than in previous years. So we want to go ahead and get this knocked down, and that way we're helping to give the summer grasses a boost. Let them go ahead and get started. But by grazing, you know, knocking all this down and putting them in so tight, they're going to knock down pee and poop on more than they eat here. Okay, now I don't fully have this set up. I got to finish getting this set up here. But the point is but when you're really wanting to slow them down, you're not wanting them to graze as much as they trample, you know, because of something like clover or something. This can be a good technique. You know, there's two different ways you can manage clover, and we'll do more videos out on that. You know, we've got quite a bit of clover coming up all in our pastures, and there's a few spots where it's a little too heavy. And if I were to turn them loose into this whole place, they would go and graze most of that clover first, and that's where you'll get your bloat in. So a lot of those places, I'll actually run a strip like straight through here. I don't know if you can see the patch of clover up on the hill. I'll run a strip straight through like this. That way they can go up there. They will graze the clover first, but they're only getting X amount of clover, you know, before they have to come back over here and start eating grasses again. It's when they sit there and eat that clover just non-stop and they don't quit that you really start to see that problem. You know, so that's one way you can manage clover. But that's what we're going to do here, guys. We're just going to run them in really, really tight. I mean, it's not going to be very long at all. They're going to come in here and just really just walk up and down, especially when you strip graze like this, when you're real tight and they got to walk really long distances. Then they really do way more trampling than they ever will grazing, because cattle love to go and find out what their borders are. They love to go in there and look at their whole border. So they're going to walk all the way up to here. The whole herd is. And they're going to be real tight. They're going to be bumping together. And then they're going to realize that all of them can't get in there. And then they're going to start to spread out. And by the time they realize just how tight they are, they're actually going to have knocked most of it down. You know, so then they'll get a few pickings. We'll leave them on it for a little bit. You know, they may bawl for just a little bit. You know, we're not going to make them suffer, but we're going to let them knock this down and let them do exactly what they would have done in nature to really re-germinate the summer growth, to help that summer growth to come in, but also to go ahead and put this clover to work. You know, we're going to be knocking these seeds down in here, so we'll get some good clover coming back next year. And then we're also going to be helping to release that nitrogen, because that clover, it's not going to release all of its nitrogen until after it gets either grazed off or trampled in or pinched off. You know, like, you know, if you pinch it off or graze it off, whatever, you're terminating the plant. At that point, that's when the clover starting. I mean, the majority of your nitrogen gets released from your clover at that point. It starts to come out of there, you know, because it's actually bound in there. And that's why you also need good biology in your soil. If you don't have a good diverse biology, you need the right bacteria to actually get in there and help release a lot of that nitrogen. So I have heard people in the past tell me, well, I've tried clover and stuff and it doesn't work all that well for me. And it's like, well, it is a process of being patient, because if you've got dead soils, if you've got soils that you've sprayed for many years and you've killed off a lot of that, unfortunately you're not going to see the same benefit from it as I am. I've gotten to where now I haven't sprayed my fields. I've never sprayed my fields, but I'm saying that my fields haven't been sprayed since I've been managing them. And so that, you know, I'm finally starting to see the dividends of that. So my field, or especially somebody else's field who really has not sprayed in many years, those benefits are going to be far better, because the biology is going to be there. It's going to be there. All of that life is going to be there to start to help absorb that and release that nitrogen that's in that plant, because that clover is harvesting the available nitrogen that's currently just all around it. There's nitrogen all around here, and it's able to harvest that, you know, and then it puts it down into its root and releases it. Now, there are other ways that it releases nitrogen, and I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, but I just wanted to touch on that. This right here, I don't know if you can see that. I think that's a honeybee. It's definitely a bee. It's a pollinator. Let's see if I can get close to it, see if you can see it. Can y'all see that real well? I think that's a honeybee, but I can't get quite close enough to it. I don't want to bother it. I don't want it to come over here and sting me. That's one thing I love about grazing the way we do, is it's really beneficial to us, but it's by default. You know, regenerative agriculture is by default good for everything in nature. And that's why I really do believe that regenerative agriculture is the best thing for every argument that anyone has. You know, we've got the vegans are arguing about trying to make things better for animals, and that's something that we do with regenerative agriculture. And then we've got people talking about the carbon problem in our atmosphere, and that's something that we address and take care of with regenerative agriculture. And I think we do it in a better way than anybody else can do, you know. And but then we've got people that talk about the honeybees and the pollinators, you know, all the way around, the whole host of pollinators. That is a problem, that because a lot of them are starting to go extinct, and we're not sure what kind of consequences that may have in the future. And so that's, you know, we're addressing that problem with regenerative agriculture as well, you know. And there's just so many other problems, and that is a topic for a different video. But that's one thing that I really love about regenerative agriculture, is any concern you have, any argument that you have, anything that you have that is positive or negative in any way, whatever your goal is, to help or to change or to make better or whatever, you know, all of that can be found in regenerative agriculture. So that's something that I am so excited about when it comes to that kind of thing and with mob grazing. Thanks for watching. Guys, this channel doesn't really make a whole lot of money, but it takes a lot of effort out of me. There is one thing that you can do to help my channel that doesn't really hurt you in any way, and that is anytime I put an Amazon link in my channel, if you click on that link, and whether you're buying what I've put in there or not, it always helps my channel. Thank you.